بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We're still discussing the final major fiqh rule. Customs are binding. Al-'adatu muhakkama. And we spoke about two sub-rules, and we tried to finish, inshallah, and conclude this episode if Allah Azza wa Jal wills and makes our affairs easy. The third sub-rule is إنما تعتبر العادة إذا اضطردت أو غلبت. And we took this before. A custom is only considered when it is consistent and established, which means that if a custom is known only for me and you, not in the community, this is not considered to be established, and it is not consistent. So it has to have the consistency among the society. For example, in my community, it is well established that if the marriage contract between a man and a woman is written, this is zawaj or aqd al-nikah. As long as she is still in her father's house, the man is not allowed to have any illegal. It is legal because she's his wife. But because she is still in her father's house, he cannot have with her intimacy as a man and a wife, though she is his wife. If one of them dies, what will happen? He will inherit the other. She becomes halal for him. He is her mahram. He can sit with her, he can touch her, she's his wife, but not to have intimacy. Why? Is it haram? Quran and Sunnah? No. But because the customs are binding, and because the people have taken this as a consistent custom, then it is not permissible. Maybe in America, the custom is different. If someone marries a woman, immediately she becomes his wife, even if she is living with her family and he's living with his family. So as long as there is agreement, as long as the guardian gives permission, this is okay. Otherwise, the customs is not. Why? It's a very big possibility that they may have intimacy and she becomes pregnant and the boy dies or he divorces. And the people would say, she conceived of haram. The wedding did not take place. How did she conceive? So for protection and for minimizing the harm, this is prevented. Fourth rule is العبرة للغالب الشائع لا للنادر. العبرة للغالب الشائع لا للنادر. Consideration is given to what is widespread, not to the exception. So what applies is what is widely accepted, not the exceptions. For example, someone who left home and did not come back. We reported him missing. And after a while, the judge declares him to be dead. So the woman is a widow, inheritance is distributed. One would say, no, wait, this is not right. He might come back. So there is a possibility that he might come back. If he is 40 years old, 50 years old, then this is acceptable. But if he's 95 years old, then consideration is given to what is widespread, not the exception. The exception, if a 95 years old goes missing, that he's finished, expired. He had died somewhere. But a 40 or 50 years old, no, the possibility is much less. So you do not apply the exception because the consideration is given to what is widespread. And what is widespread is the 95-year-old, when he goes missing, the chances of him returning are negligible. Rule number 5. Al-kitabu kal-khitab. Writing is like speaking. And this is the customs. If I go to you and I say, I sell you my house for 5,000, and you say, I accept, and we write this down. So this is as if I had said it verbally. I don't have to say it again. So in normal cases, whatever is written down, it takes the place of being said. Al-kitabu kal-khitab. However, when it comes to divorce, if someone sends a divorce to his wife in writing, we have to look at the circumstances. So if there is nothing wrong between them, and he simply writes an email, you're divorced, or he writes it on a piece of tissue or a paper, and she sees it, is this considered to be divorce? Scholars say, depending on the intention. If his intention was to divorce, it's a divorce. If the circumstances were encouraging to interpret it as divorce, it is a divorce. What do you mean by circumstances? They've been shouting for the past 5 hours. You're a donkey, you're a mule, you are a dog, you are a cat. And they're shouting and pulling each other's hair. After 5 hours, he takes a pen, a piece of paper, he says, you are divorced with a capital D. And then after half an hour, he says, no, I didn't mean it. No, we do not accept this. The circumstances state that he was divorcing. In normal circumstances, the divorce doesn't take place unless he intends it in writing. But if he says it, then it happens. If it's clear cut, if someone says to his wife, I love you, but you're divorced, then this is divorce. In Arabic, taliq means divorced, but it also means untied. So if someone comes and finds his wife wrapped up in ropes and tied, so he removes the ropes and the chains and he says, Alhamdulillah, anti taliq. Now this is not taken as divorce because he is saying it in a linguistic term, so it doesn't take place. But in writing, it depends on the intention and it also depends on the circumstances. Number 6, al-isharat al-ma'huda lil-akhras kal-bayan bil-lisan. A person who cannot speak, his sign language is like talking to a normal person. And this is customs are binding. Now, if someone is mute, he cannot speak, how can we accept from him selling and buying, marrying? In marriage, what are the pillars of marriage? Al-ijab wal-qubul. What is al-ijab? When the father says, I give you my daughter in marriage. Qabul is acceptance, and the man says, I accept. So the mute goes to get married, and the father says, I give you my daughter in marriage. And he says, no, sorry, no marriage. You have to say, I accept. He cannot say. And therefore, the ease of the Sharia makes it sufficient for him to sign, to give a sign. Yes, okay. The poor thing doesn't know what awaits for him, but alhamdulillah. And also in selling and buying. In selling and buying, for someone who cannot speak, because normally speaking, also transactions must be having these pillars, al-ijab wal-qabul. So the seller says, I give you my watch for 500 riyals, and you say, I accept. For someone who cannot speak, this is not applicable, so the sign would do the job, inshallah. 7th and 8th and 9th, they all go in the same meaning. So this is wholesale. Al-ma'rufu urfan kal-mashruti shartan. That which is known by custom is like that which is stipulated. Number 8, at-ta'yinu bil-urf kat-ta'yini bil-nas. Specifying via customs is like specifying via the texts. And finally, 9, al-ma'rufu bayna at-tujjar kal-mashruti baynahum. what is customary between traders is just like what is stipulated by them. And all of this has the same meaning, in the sense that whatever we agree upon, whether we're traders, we are professionals, we're doctors, the people, this is all considered to be part of the customs, and it becomes binding. I go to a place that sells furniture in parts, and the customs in the area we live in, that if you buy something that is in parts, it has to be installed by the company. So I go and I buy worth of so much money. I give the money, they give me the receipt, and I say, okay, when are you going to come and install it, assemble it home? I said, no, we're not doing that. We don't do that anymore. I don't know how to do it. I said, you have to pay something extra. No, I'll take you to the police. And the police comes and the judge comes and he said, yes, this is the norm, this is a custom. So you, as a seller, as a shop, it is your duty to do it. So this becomes a law. This becomes part of the things that are binding on the people. Likewise, it is something stipulated. It's a custom. If I rent a car, then I have to use it as it is custom. If someone rents a car and puts into it 3 sheep and 1 cow and 10 chickens, and he takes it to the farm, is this part of the customs? No, then this has been something out of the customs, and he has to pay extra, and he has to be fined for that. Likewise, someone marries a woman, and everything was done. After the marriage was consummated, the woman says, where is my dowry? Where is my mahar? He says, here is 100 riyals. She said, what? I was expecting 100,000 riyals. So they have a dispute. What to do? We ask the country, we ask the city, what is stipulated among you? What is known to be the customs and the condition? Any woman who gets married, she gets a dowry of 30,000 riyals. So it's not 100 and it's not 100,000. So this is what's to be given to the wife, because this is what the people agree upon to be the customs and becomes a law. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So the final sub-rule from customs are binding is that لا ينكر تغيير الأحكام بتغير الزمان. Ruling, changing in different eras should not be denounced. And this is a tricky rule. Now, do the rules of Islam change due to change of eras? There are 2 types of rules. Rulings that are stemmed from the Quran and the Sunnah, and these do not change. So never ever you will find someone telling you that intoxicants were haram in the past, but now, alhamdulillah, they're halal. Why? They'll say because in the past, when people used to drink wine and whiskey and get drunk, doors did not have locks. So they used to go out and do crimes and do heinous things. Now, alhamdulillah, you put password on your door and you lock it, and you drink and you become intoxicated and you bang your head in the wall. You will not have any harm to others. Alhamdulillah. Is this applicable? No, these rules never change. Fornication never changes. It's haram. If you have means to protect you from illnesses and diseases, STD as they call it, sexual transmitted diseases, if you have means to protect you, the ruling still is haram. It's a major sin. Riba is haram, yes, but things have changed. Now we are dealing with the West and with the East and China and America, and they all deal in riba, so it's halal. No, the ruling remains haram. What changes are things that are not related entirely to Islam, meaning Quran and Sunnah, such as things to do with character. In Islam, there is a phrase called Khawarim al-Muru'ah. And what does that mean? Khawarim al-Muru'ah is the things that people do and they are discredited for. For example, at the time of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, at the time of the tabi'een and the centuries afterwards, there are certain things, if an individual does, his testimony in court is rejected. So for example, if someone shaves his beard and goes to testify in the court, the judge tell him, go out. Why? He said, you're not a man. What you're doing is not befitting of a man. Likewise, min khawarim al-muru'ah, at that age, if someone grabs a sandwich and eats it in the street, this was completely unacceptable. So you would not find a scholar or a judge doing this. Time changes. So what was prohibited or unacceptable because of the customs long ago, this may change. And that is why the rule is ruling changing in different eras should not be denounced. You should not stop this because from one era to the other, things differ. Another example, you have all the right to change your mind if you buy something and when you see it, it's not like what you thought. This is a fiqhi rule, and that is why you have to visualize it, you have to see it. Long ago, they used to build the houses in the same shape. No decoration, no marble, nothing, no windows, no air conditioning. It's the same set of four walls with a ceiling. So, do you have the choice to reject after buying one of these houses? Scholars say no, because they're all identical. But now we have houses, villas, apartments, big rooms, small rooms, air-conditioned, not air-conditioned, looking city view or haram view or whatever view. So it's different. Do I have the choice if I buy something without seeing it to reject it? The answer is yes, as the scholars say. So rules change from one era to the other. Long ago, masjids were all the time 24/7 open. And this was the norm. This was the customs. Nowadays, the rule has changed. Why? Because we've discovered that there are evil people entering the masjid when there's no one there and doing something that is inappropriate, or stealing the microphones and the amplifiers. And this happens every single time you leave the doors open. So the rule changes, and yes, after the prayer is over, we close the doors. One would come, Ya akhi, don't you fear Allah? Closing the door of the house of Allah? You have to leave it open. He said, no, because the harm is greater than the good, and because the customs have changed. People themselves have changed. So this is the norm. You should not denounce changing the rules, but not the rules of Sharia. Don't ever come and say, before we used to implement the prescribed punishment, such as flogging or amputating or beheading the murderers, etc. Now time has changed. This is against human rights. This is against the Geneva Convention. This is against, no matter what it is against. We have the rule of Allah from the Quran and Sunnah, and this is unchangeable. But the things that are part of the ijtihad, yes, you can change that. And that is why Ash-Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on him, used to have rulings, as they call it, in the qadim, in the old, and rulings in the jadid, in the new. So when he was in Medina or he was in Al-Iraq and Sham, he had an old opinion. When he went to Egypt and saw the people of Egypt, he got a new opinion because he saw a different culture. These are in the things that deal with ijtihad, not with the rulings obtained from the Quran and from the Sunnah. So, do we have any questions? Yes, Umair.
Sheikh, as we have come to the end of this workshop, what I want to ask is that, do we give precedence and preference to one rule over the other among the major 5 rules? And secondly, can there be any contradictions among the sub-rules between 2 rules?
Okay. As I stated in the very beginning of the workshop, These are not 100% fault-proof. These are just to summarize knowledge and fiqh so that you can remember the rulings, generally speaking. Can they contradict? Definitely. Which one is the most important? Well, al-umuru bimaqasidiha. Actions are by their deeds. Controls most of them. When it comes to harm and inflicting harm, when it comes to certainty is not removed by doubt, always you will find that intention is the dominating factor. But can they contradict? You cannot say contradict, but you say that I give preference to one over the other because it's stronger and it's prevailing on that particular issue than the other. So these rules give you guidelines. And if you master them, they will immensely help you in the university because you will take courses on this particular subject. And if you are zero in knowledge, you will find it as difficult as you found the workshop to be. But once you have finished it, of course, there are many sub-rules. Now, these are al-Qawa'id al-Kubra, and there are al-Qawa'id al-Kulliyah or al-Sughra. And there are sub-rules, again and again, it's specific. So many of them. We cannot have them all at the same time now, but this is your roadmap. Inshallah, and I guarantee you, if you master this and you go to your university and attend the course, that you will get a straight A. Because everything that he will say, you will find 95% of what we have studied, inshallah, azza wa jal. And it's a logical science. The more logic you have and the more study of the fiqh in particular and its detailed issues, the more you will find that things are more clear for you, inshallah. This brings us to the end of this workshop. As I said, that this is not everything that deals with the Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya. There's so much to it, but I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that we have benefited from it and that it would help us in our pursuit in seeking the knowledge that gets us closer to Allah. Wallahu a'lam wa nisbatul ilmi ilayhi aslam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak.